Yo, what up guys? A few people liked last week's Q&A, so I think I'm gonna actually record one of these every Wednesday, just going over some comments that I didn't read or didn't respond to over the past week, and I'll be uploading them on Patreon and then a week later publicly. Crips of Winterfell says, if your questions are for a Game of Thrones video, I do have a question regarding Daenerys' vision when she was in the House of the Undying. She saw the throne room at King's Landing, just like Bran. Roof burned and snow or ash on the floor, but she moves on and sees her old husband Khal Drogo, and her son. I tend to think that she's not going to make it. In fact, since she went beyond the wall to find Drogo, I kind of feel like she's going to die beyond the wall. So tell me, Kev, what are your thoughts? Was Dany merely inhaling the smoke from a weirwood tree right after seeing the Iron Throne Room, or does the vision have any meaning? Love your vids. Keep up your Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Well, I actually responded to you the other day. This is an intense one. So the visions of the House of the Undying, they're very different between the books and the show. In the books, there are a lot of visions of the past, things that have happened, like Viserys is getting crowned, like Rhaegar and Lyanna having the prince that was promised, Jon Snow, he called him Aegon. In the show, they're a lot different. In the show, they do have that scene where she doesn't touch the Iron Throne. So to answer your first question, yeah, I definitely don't think she'll ever sit on the Iron Throne. To be honest, I don't think she'd make that good of a leader. I know I gave her a little bit of hate early in season 7, and people got on me for that. I do think that she's sort of embodying some of Drogon's aggressiveness. I think that dragon bonding, just like warging, you sort of exchange souls, and the more you do it, the more you sort of adopt the personality and the traits of that person. So I think that's partially why she's becoming so aggressive. And Dany did make some good moves. She was heroic and she did chill out at times, but I don't necessarily think she'll be the best ruler. Historically, she hasn't done that well as a ruler. When you look at all the slave cities, they've all turned her crap. She's a great conqueror, though, and at times she is fighting for things like freedom. It was pretty awesome. But when she came to Westeros, she's really just fighting for her self-entitlement, fighting for a throne that she believes is hers. I mean, her parents were usurped, so at this point, she's just another usurper. And we can go a step further, like Tyrion said to her, well, what's your succession plan? Because when you're in power, when you're a king or a queen, the danger is when you die, what happens next? Like we saw with the Dance of the Dragons, and the freaking family was fighting each other. She doesn't even think she can have kids, yet she wants to be queen. Like she's basically setting up the realm to maybe be good under her, and then she's not really thinking about the future. So that's pretty crappy. But yeah, that's not the reason why, but I don't think she'll ever sit the throne. And to be honest, because of the videos that I was working on before I stopped to do this, where I'm going to go over why I think that the Night King's name is Jon Snow, I'm going down tinfoil alley. I'm starting to think that Jon Snow and Dany are going to be a Night King and Night Queen to end this story, which completely goes against the whole like magic dying thing, but I feel like that might happen. That'd be so cool. All right, next up, my friend Living My Rhapsody, who, if you didn't know, wrote a freaking book. So go over to Living My Rhapsody's website, her YouTube channel, and buy that book. It's pretty awesome. Living My Rhapsody, or LMR as I call her. Question time. Who else wants to see multiple show endings? Not just separate endings, but something sort of like a multiple possibilities for multiple realities and universes. Ooh, this is interesting. Seen through the eyes of Bran, if he survives, or whoever else could have insight into that stuff, maybe the Night King. Seeing multiple endings in that perspective would be epic. Anyone else into that? What about you, Kev? Multiple endings, multiple wheels on Astrolabe, one for each show ending. Okay, there's a lot to that. So when we first heard about the multiple endings, I thought, oh my god, that's from a business standpoint, that means they can release, like maybe just give us one ending on the show and then release a bunch of others on DVDs. Or it might be like we get episode 6 and then like, guess what guys, we got another episode next week and we get a whole different ending. Or maybe even do that 2 weeks in a row. The problem, though, is that when you talk about actual changes in the ending, like changes in the story, you can't really wrap it up with like one scene change. It would be an entire episode, or maybe even you talk about the big plot points, it would be like 3 full episodes, 4 maybe. So I'm not sure if they can actually do multiple endings. They could, though, do like a different final scene and release that on DVD. So like I want to see sort of like an homage to the children of the forest and then the children of tomorrow, but maybe they have various types of actual closing scenes, but the major plot points don't change. So they could go that route. What you're saying though is that maybe someone like Bran the Night King has visions, almost like prophetic visions of like what could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this, and that's the whole point of the story, is that there are visions like Khal Drogo's son, the Stallion that mounts the world. That one didn't come true, thank God, because his goal was to basically unify the entire world into a single Khalasar, and the Khalasars are not that kind. They're freaking barbaric. So maybe we'll get something like that, where it's sort of like they're at a crossroads, like, what do we do? What do we do? And Bran sees a bunch of different visions, and then boom, and they go the right route, and they heal the Night King, save the world, violence and disease. Okay, I'm crazy. And then, of course, you have the whole, maybe they're shooting extra scenes to either confuse the actors. I think the actors know what the end of the story is, that they probably already know. But maybe they do that. Oh, I think someone said that. Let's see. Yeah, LMR, you actually came back and said it. It could solve paparazzi issues. That makes sense. So I could see them going that route, especially for this final season. So will we get Totally different ending, like totally different plot points? I don't think so. But it would be really cool whether it's just visions of possible futures or whether it's a DVD release or it's just for the paparazzi. Hopefully they release them someday. I hope we do get multiple endings. The more Game of Thrones, the better. And the last one that came through on Patreon is from Rhonda Dawson. If I'm not too late, do you think there would be any likely ways the first chapter of A Game of Thrones, of Bran watching the beheading of a deserter, could be foreshadowing future events? Ned's beheading at the end of the book, obviously, but beyond that, I was wondering more about the possible significance for Bran. I think Ned tells him that it was important for him to understand why the man who passed the sentence must swing the sword. Do you see any way this could possibly come into play for Bran in the future? And then Elmar followed up. That got me thinking about Jon and the sentence he has on the Night King. Jon sentences the Night King to death, so according to the Night King's words, or according to Ned's words, Jon should swing the sword tonight. Yeah, that's a really good point. So I've never actually seen this from George's mouth, like in a video, or I've never seen him quoted about saying it, but a lot of people have often said that all the answers can be found within the first book. So if that's true, then something like this could actually play a part in the end game, because, I mean, it was Bran's first scene, right? I think it was chapter 1 after the prologue. So it could go a couple different routes. Like you said, I don't see Bran swinging any sword, so then it comes down to Jon passing a sentence and swinging the sword. Ooh, is that the Night King? Or does he have to take out Bran? Imagine Jon has to take out Bran for that whole, like, getting rid of magic thing. Oh my god. Imagine Bran told him to? No, but passing the sentence would be something that Jon... Okay, you're getting me sad. So, I don't know, Rhonda. I think you're onto something, though. I want to hear from the Game of Thrones community. Comment down below if you think that scene about Ned telling Bran that the person who passes the sentence should swing the sword applies to more than just, like Robb with the Karstark or Jon with the people in the Night's Watch. If it applies to something like the Night King or Bran or Arya or Sansa or Dany. It could go a lot of different ways. I don't know. That's cool, though. All right, now we're going to head over to YouTube. My friend Anthony Santic says, I could see Bran sacrificing himself at Winterfell. Everyone is there or will be there at the start of the season. Maybe when the fighters are cornered and there's only one way out, but they can't get there because it's being blocked by White Walkers, and Bran wargs into one of the White Walkers. It gives Jon and the others an opening to run, while the dead are wasting time fighting each other, since they can't kill each other. Jon doesn't want to leave Bran behind, but wow, that'd be intense. White Walker on White Walker crime. That's pretty cool. I like where your head's at. And hey, Anthony, what's up, man? Mel of Winterfell responded with, I like that idea. I could live with Bran dying. Hey, Mel. He is admittingly already dead as Bran. Some people have to make sacrifices, and I believe Bran is one of them. He has no real future. Wow, that's some deep stuff. The only problem, though, is that, like, people saying, like, Bran warging Viserion. First of all, I don't think the whole you're going to fly thing relates to Bran warging a dragon. And secondly, Bran is able to warg living things, whereas the Night King wargs or whatever he does. He has necromancy to raise them, and then he wargs the dead things. I would be very surprised if Bran ends up being able to warg anything dead. Except maybe like if Hodor comes back, because maybe he already has a bond to Hodor. Oh, or Summer. Can you imagine if they come back and then Bran has to... Ooh, or even just kill them. Like, oh. But to go back to your point, I don't know. I don't see this happening, but White Walker on White Walker action would be pretty cool. Good idea. All right, another one by Anthony, right above it. Why is no one talking about the fact that the Night King turned them all? If he's not the original, he didn't turn them all, right? Or were all the Whites and White Walkers killed at the Battle of the Dawn, except for him? Or maybe, just maybe, I like the way you type, the last hero was indeed a hero, who knew the White Walkers could only be defeated with the help of the children. He went there, and the only possible way to be victorious was to fight fire with fire, or rather ice with ice. Maybe all of his friends returned instead of being killed. That explained the 13 White Walkers in Season 4. I'm really tangenting here. I'm not going to get into it. You'll see in a future video that I'm going to upload. But I'm actually starting to wonder if the original Night's Watch were White Walkers. If it was the 12 dudes, the 12 companions of the last hero, and then the 13th Lord Commander, who became the last hero and the Night's King. And I use that line, fighting fire with fire, or rather, ice with ice. I'll make a video about this, but just keep in mind that there was that book in the restricted section of the Citadel in Season 7, and I think it showed Phase of the Moon. I just thought of this idea a couple minutes ago, and I haven't looked it back up. But then the White Walkers, at least in the books, only come out at night. In the show it's hard to pull that off because then every scene would be very dark. The show's dark as it is. But what if the original Night's Watch, who guarded against the evil White Walkers, so to say, like the original White Walkers, what if the original Night's Watch were White Walkers? That's why didn't the children give Dragonglass, like 100 Dragonglass daggers a year, to the Night's Watch. Maybe they were converting people into White Walkers to help defend during the night against the evil White Walkers. But eventually the 13th Lord Commander wanted a girl, kind of like with Jon and Ygritte. Like, seriously, what's the problem? You can't have a girl? And he ended up having some beef with maybe a Stark and Winterfell, And then he went north, and then he took over. He killed all the bad White Walkers, or at least the bad White Walker general, you know, the dude with the goatee from the cave painting. And then now he's the king of winter up north. But he's back, and he's pissed. It's time to go home.
I have to go home now.
Mr. Pelican asks, what would your perfect ending be in Game of Thrones? I haven't fully wrapped my arms around my expectations or my hopes, but definitely part of my hopes is that it's not just a vanilla, you know, like Jon Snow fights the Night King and kills him. First of all, that would seem kind of weird because the Night King's way more powerful than Jon Snow. Secondly, I just think that we have to go back to Ray's line about how violence is a disease. So my perfect ending would relate to the Night King being shown to be the Night King, the 13th Lord Commander, and some sort of healing process that goes on. Not necessarily like he lays down and lets them heal him. I think that Jon's going to have to like heal him. Jon's going to die in the process of healing him. He'll turn old, maybe turn to dust. All the other White Walkers may turn back to humans, like the young babies, Craster's sons, and they can live a normal life as humans. And then maybe, just maybe, Sam could finally be a sorcerer, stab Jon with that dragon glass, turn him into a new Night King. And I think the original Night King's name was also Jon Snow. So it's just different because there are a lot of similarities between the stories. If the original Night King was the bastard son of Bael the Bard, and Jon Snow being the son of Lyanna and Rhaegar, there are a lot of similarities between the story. But then Jon changes it up because instead of looking at the people south of the wall as the others, Jon is the Song of Ice and Fire. He sees both sides as living.